Tominey to discuss today's headlines. So, actually, no politics today, so let's start with...
Can we just do Cameron Norrie?
Yeah.
Wouldn't that be great?
Wouldn't that be lovely? What a lovely world that would be.
He made me cry yesterday.
So what a match that was. What a match that was. He made us suffer for a bit, but what a match.
Yeah.
Anyway, we're not starting with that.
Brit's coming back.
That felt nice, though, didn't it?
It did, didn't it?
Yeah.
What a change that would have made to the world if we could have started the morning view with that. Right, so, obviously, the week's going from bad to worse for Boris, Sajid, Javid, Rishi Sunak resigning yesterday, which we all know about. They say it wasn't coordinated, then they said it was coordinated, and Rishi Sunak was due to be on the show today, I think. Tomorrow.
Yeah.
So he was going to be on the show tomorrow. He cancelled just before that cabinet VT that we saw of them all sitting there.
Yeah.
So he knew
really
that was
happy.
coming. That was, you know, that was on the cards.
Javid and Sunak are mates, and not just because they're cabinet colleagues, but he was Chief Secretary to the Treasury under Sajid Javid when he was Chancellor before he was ousted at the beginning of Johnson's premiership. So there's always some conversations behind the scenes. I mean, there are a lot of conversations going on at the moment, I would imagine, with positioning. We've now had our 12th Minister, Will Quince, to resign. He was put in an extraordinarily difficult position yesterday in having, he claims, been lied to by Number 10 about the Chris Pincher allegations and what the PM knew about them. And this is what we're increasingly seeing. To be fair, when I was on a Monday with Giles, we were having this discussion, weren't we, about the biggest danger coming from the cabinet, not from the backbenches, because there's only so many times ministers will go on the telly to basically have eggs metaphorically pelted at them, not just by broadcasters, but also by an audience going, what are you talking about? You're trying to defend the indefensible, and they've been put in a really awkward position.
And, Matthew, why you see all this sort of, you know, this indefensible being defended everywhere, you've got people jostling for position now, you do sort of wonder when you look at all this happening and unfolding. We are in the middle of so many crises of different varieties. Is any work actually getting done?
This is the kind of tragedy, isn't it? Is that within the reshuffles that have gone on, so Nadeem Zahawi, who I thought was going to resign as well, because in that morning video he looked as miserable as Sunak and Javid. I thought he'd go, but so everybody moves into new jobs. Education has been, frankly, struggling since before COVID. Then we had COVID. Zahawi's moved, just before GCSEs, just before A-level results. There's the schools bill, which is in disarray going through Parliament. No, this is difficult. And on top of all of that, the really big question is, how long is this government going to stand? I don't think Nadeem Zahawi is going to be in the job for very long, frankly. I think that Boris wants to get to summer recess, which is a couple of weeks away, a week and a bit away. He then hopes that we, the public, are going to forget about this shambles of lies and corruption that's been going on, and that somehow we can have a reset when Parliament comes back.
So how can he, will he? I mean, he's a bluffer, a fighter, you know, he'll tough this out. I was watching him on the news yesterday, and it is a clumsy lesson in attempting to dodge questions.
He could, because he's very rapidly announced these jobs again, so he's refilled these vacancies, although there are still some to be filled. It is feasible that he can just dig in and plough on, but he's got a number of very significant obstacles ahead. First of all, he's got PMQs today, and we'll see how that goes. Frankly, if Sir Keir Starmer doesn't land a significant blow, then he is politically finished himself, in my opinion. Second of all, he's got this liaison committee meeting where he's going to be grilled by MPs on his own conduct in office. You've then got the prospect of the 1922 committee having an executive re-elected that may push for him to face another no-confidence. So at the moment...
Bridgen said he's up for it, hasn't he?
And people like Steve Baker and some of the PM's main detractors are vying to be elected onto that committee so that it would push for another no-confidence vote.
They've got to change the rules.
They'd have to change the rules. And there is a bit of ambivalence within the Tory party about whether it's wise to do that, particularly at this time before recess. And secondly, to be fair to a lot of the ministers that have resigned, a lot of them are making the point that Matt has just made, that we cannot get on with our affairs of state because we're constantly having to defend the indefensible and talk about the politics of it all rather than the policy, and that's a major problem here.
Boris Johnson has problems with convention. I've said this before, we don't have a written constitution in this country. Everything is done by convention. Convention would have it that Boris Johnson should be out the door, but he's not going to go.
A lot of people watching this would say that Boris Johnson's greatest problem at the moment is actually coming out and telling the truth.
I wouldn't disagree with that. I think he's got a lot of problems, but cumulatively, in history, when a Prime Minister finds himself in this situation with Cabinet Ministers going out the door, they fall on their sword within days.
What he should do?
Yes, of course, but he's going to do Donald Trump, isn't he? He's just going to say, I'm not going out. What do they know? What do they know? I won a big majority, which he did, but that's not the same as having your own party turn against you.
I mean, we've got a poll saying that 69% of the country think he should go and 54% of Conservative voters think he should go. So that's not a ringing endorsement. We had the last no confidence where he failed to secure the support of 41% of his own MPs.
And more of these Cabinet Ministers that resign, of course, then become backbenchers, raising the prospect of a bigger vote.
There's still the argument of, well, who better? But that is shape-shifting literally by the hour, because those two by-elections that were lost in Wakefield and Tiverton and Honiton suggested that he's gone from vote winner to vote loser. If in red wall seats people have just had enough, then you're losing red wall seats and you're losing true blue Tory shires, then obviously people within the party, parliamentary and otherwise, are going to ask, well, what's the point of you? And this manoeuvring now from Sunak and Javid repositions them. I mean, there's already talk that Oliver Dowden, the former party chairman, is now going to try and launch Sunak's leadership bid. So, look, manoeuvres, the battle is on, right?
It feels like the whole country's trapped in a Tory ideological battle. They've got to work out what they want. And it's been struggling over the European issue now for 40-odd years. That's still the schism in the Tory party. Is it Remain? Is it Leave? What kind of Leave is it? What kind of Brexit still? And I think that until the Tory party work out what their next leadership strategy is going to be, we may find ourselves in this mess.
The country is also trapped in a lack of a viable opposition. No one having any faith in the Labour leader because we don't know what that party stands for.
But they're not in government. We should focus on the people who've been in government for 12 years.
You know
and
as well as I do,
as
somebody who's more left of centre, that if it was a character like Tony Blair dealing with the Prime Minister at the dispatch box today, he'd make absolute mincemeat of him. And it's a travesty, really, if you consider the expressions of exasperation being aired by the nation this morning, that the Labour Party aren't further ahead. And that's because there isn't a clear vision. And the people of Britain are going, we're facing a cost of living crisis, we're facing problems post-Brexit, we're facing supply and staff shortages, and the whole of the Westminster elite seem to be caught up in who ate cake, who had a curry and a beer, and
Jacob Rees-Mogg telling us it's all going really, really well.
Who can lead the country?